Hi, I'm Tim Altman, breathing coach, naturopath, and paddling coach. Today I'm going to talk about how to train your breathing to enhance sporting performance. Breathing has been described by some of the world's top sports doctors and sports physiologists as the last uncharted frontier of exploration of sporting performance. And the reason why breathing can help sporting performance, or why we understand this, actually comes from what we understand about the fact that most of us don't breathe anywhere near what we should according to medical diagnostic norms. So most of us breathe twice as much as we should. We use our chest and shoulders instead of using our diaphragm. We use our mouth often in addition to or instead of our nose. So we breathe far too often with far too much volume, and we breathe in emergency mode using our chest and shoulders rather than using our diaphragm. So we can't control our breathing very well, which makes us overbreathe. Now, we do know that that affects our health quite dramatically in a number of areas, and we've used breathing retraining for years in working with people with a range of ailments such as asthma and snoring and apnea and anxiety and depression, headaches and migraines, fatigue, etc., etc. However, the same principles apply when applying it to sporting performance, or they apply in reverse. So by learning how to retrain your breathing, you can get great benefits in sporting performance, and they've certainly started to back this up with research now. And in fact, the Trek cycling team, professional cycling team, have started to employ a breathing retrainer or a free diving trainer to work with their cyclists. So what we do by training you breathe with your nose predominantly, use your diaphragm to slow down your rate of breathing and the volume that you breathe at, and allow your brain to handle more carbon dioxide, which occurs when you reduce the volume of breathing and slow your breathing down. You can allow your body to handle lower breathing rates and lower breathing volume at higher levels of exercise. The effects of that are that you will produce energy far more efficiently, which is obviously positive. Secondly, because you're getting oxygen to cells far more efficiently, then you'll delay lactic acid onset. Thirdly, because you're using your diaphragm, you're going to use more of your lung volume for gas exchange, and therefore you're more efficient at uptaking oxygen in your lungs, which is a huge factor. Also, using your diaphragm, the diaphragm plays a role in stability, core stabilization and stability. So in learning to use your diaphragm and strengthening your diaphragm, you'll play a large role in strengthening and increasing your core stability while you're exercising. Also, breathing is regulated via the hypothalamus, via the autonomic nervous system, which is a nervous system that regulates not only our breathing but every other automatic function in our body, including our circulation and our heart, etc. It also regulates the stress response. So by learning how to slow down your breathing, or learning how to diaphragm breathe and then slow down your breathing, you'll also impact your heart rate, so that if you can breathe slower at a certain level of exercise, you can also reduce your heart rate at that level of exercise. And the obviously benefit there being that you become far more efficient at exercising at a certain levels by learning how to breathe, using your nose, using your diaphragm, and reducing the rate and volume. The other side of it is if you're in a sport where you're doing high intensity efforts frequently, then learning how to nose breathe and nose and diaphragm breathe to recover will bring you back to your basal heart rate or resting heart rate much, much quicker. So you'll recover much quicker between efforts. And that's certainly something we've seen with working in clinic or working in gyms with cyclists, where we get them to do repeat efforts where they go above anaerobic threshold and then they recover using their nose. They get back to a resting heart rate much quicker, or they get back to the heart rate they would at, say, 4 millimoles of lactic acid or whatever, or 2 millimoles of lactic acid a lot quicker. So it can make a massive difference that way. The other side of it is the autonomic nervous system also works with helping regulate stress, and by learning how to use your diaphragm, you're able to exercise at a much more relaxed state, and you're also able to access zone or alpha states much more easily, so you can be more relaxed at certain levels of exercise. So the benefits can be very large across the board, and as I mentioned before, research is really starting to support this. I've certainly noticed personally, and with a range of athletes that I've worked with, and in discussions with colleagues who I've had working with breathing with their athletes that they coach, or breathing retrainers working with athletes, we've found that you can nose breathe, or using only your nose up to about 90% of max heart rate, and that will make you much, much more efficient. I've found that personally doing paddling races. Paddling is a sport that I've done since I was younger, and I've done some longer races like the Molokai to Oahu race, which is roughly 4 hours, a little bit less, or for some people a bit more. And I've found that nose breathing, I come home much, much quicker. It takes a little while to get into your breathing pattern at the beginning, but once you find your breathing pattern and you get very, very comfortable with it, I've found that get to about an hour into it, or an hour and a half into it, I end up feeling fantastic and can accelerate from there, which is something that I never did before I learned how to nose and diaphragm breathe. So it can certainly be great for endurance. And as I said, in high intensity exercises where you're, for example, football, where your heart rate, you go beyond anaerobic threshold, or your heart rate, you're above 90% of your max heart rate, and you may have to go to your nose or to your mouth to breathe, then learning how to nose breathe on recovery will get you back to lower heart rates quicker, so that you can do repeated efforts quicker. Now, if you went out and tried to nose breathe up to 90% of max heart rate straight away without any training, you'll do it really tough, which is what I found out when I first tried it. I taped my mouth shut and went for a paddle, and I basically hyperventilated using my nose and got dizzy. So it certainly takes time to learn how to nose breathe while you exercise, or nose and diaphragm breathe, and slowing down your breathing rate and slowing down the volume, because when you do that, you're producing more carbon dioxide, and you have to allow time for your brain to get used to higher levels of carbon dioxide, which it will do slowly, and then your body will accept it. So it's similar to what freedivers do with their freediving training. They are getting their body used to higher levels of carbon dioxide, and over time they can increase their breath hold time. Or if you're training and you're in your early stages of your training, where you've come from not very fit, trying to get fit, so the base level of training, by doing extra training or by training over time, you get more and more fit. Same way, you can train your breathing to be able to nose and diaphragm breathe at lower rates and lower volumes, and you'll become much, much more efficient for the reasons I've explained. And over time, it will get better and better, and it'll make a massive difference. If you'd like to investigate how to nose and diaphragm breathe at slower rates, or just become more efficient at breathing for your sport, then contact me via tim@timaltman.com.au, and we can have a chat about it. I work with groups, I work one-on-one with individuals, and I can also work online.